Hey, and welcome to this tutorial. Many of you have asked me on Instagram and Twitter to do something like this, to talk about my process behind the designs, and yeah, I spent some time and here we are. Today we talk about how to create futuristic interfaces in Figma, or at least how I create them. So for the people who don't know me, I'm Sebastian. I'm an interface designer from Germany, living in Tokyo, and I'm also known as Karl Hauser on social media, where I upload these things. I do this just in my free time, besides my regular job, and I just do it for fun because I love to design. So today I will walk you through the whole process of how to create these futuristic interfaces. I will talk about typography, I will talk about shapes and so on, but therefore I created a small agenda, so it's a little bit structured. And we start first with shapes, and then we start with images, then we talk about details. This is about elements and patterns. Then we talk about typography and research. So these are all elements that are in these designs, and yeah, just keep the intro short somehow and let's do it. All right, let's talk about the basic shapes. So here are 3 examples: a square, a circle, and a triangle. Choose whatever you like. This is just to explain of how to start on an empty artboard, frame, or canvas. So I defined 5 steps for that. Choosing the shape first, then cutting or adding parts, then round the whole shape a bit, and then stacking layers on top, or you can also put layers behind it. And at the end, we will put the interface on top and so on. In step 4, by the way, we had also imagery, but to make it very abstract. And as I said, this is just a build explanation, but not how it works in reality, because as we all know, when you design something, you always jump back and forth, and then you say, no, I don't want to have this font, and I changed this color, and so on and so on. So we're gonna start now with just the arc tool. So because we want to cut out pieces out of our base shape. So if you hover the circle over the circle here, you see this tiny dot on the right side. When you drag this around, you already use the arc tool. And then you cut out slices. And while you're doing this, 2 new dots get generated here. And these 2 dots are for changing the inner radius, so the center point here, and the other one is for changing the angle. You can also tweak these numbers on the right side in the layer panel here. And the first one is for changing the angle, the other one is for closing or opening the circle, and the other one is then for the inner radius. And this is also possible with the stroke here. And you can do just the same with also with the filled shape. And this is what we use for cutting out the parts of our base shape, and also for the interface elements later. So to start with something, I've already prepared a circle for us, and we could use the pen tool for cutting out pieces there, but this would be very time consuming. I can quickly show this because it looks like this. Then you need to find the right bend here, so like this, and then close this, and then give it a fill, and then we can cut it out. And it looks weird. And then we need to fix it here. So the anchor point like this, and then like this. So it's very time consuming and you can't easily move it around. So what I do is then back. And then what I do is using this shape and duplicating this and creating, or make it slightly bigger and create a tiny arc here. So hover over it, open up the circle, create an arc. And then select both elements and cut one out of each other. Make sure that the arc is on top of the circle, otherwise you cut out the other piece. So I can quickly show this. And so otherwise you cut this out of each other. So make sure that the arc is always on top of the circle. And what you do then, or what the cool part about this is, that it's not baked yet, so you can still move these elements around. So you can just press or hold Command or Alt and then click on the element, because this is how you reach an element inside a folder, because this acts like a folder. And what you do then is duplicate this element and move it around. Be careful, because when you duplicate this same sized element, it can generate these fragments, these arrows here. So make it slightly bigger or smaller, so you get rid of them. And then cut as many slices in there as you like. So we can draw like this and make it even bigger. And the cool part is that you're very flexible of changing the overall structure here. So, and when you're happy with your base shape, so with your cuts and everything, we jump to the next step. So these are my slices I really like, so I want to keep it like this. Because we don't want to move them now anymore, we bake the whole shape. That means we flatten the shape. So you can make a right click, or you press Command E or Alt E to flatten the shape. So I use the shortcut, and when you press Enter now, you see that you can move the anchor points now. Before that you can't, because yeah, it was it was something like a folder. So what we do now is placing next to each corner point a dot, like there and there and there. And if you want to get rid of this line here, just press Escape and then it disappears. So what I want to show you here now quickly is that we use this corner point and move it into here. So make sure that the handles are not flying around, because otherwise you get these tiny drops here, and move them into this thing so everything get merged. And what we want to generate is now this open space here. So it does not feel like you cut it out with your scissor, and it feels a little bit more dynamic. And I already prepared something here. And I moved all the corner points into each other. So like this, like this, like this. And now you round the overall shape. So you go to the right panel and then you start rounding this. Not too much and not too less. So just something. I do often something around 6, 5, 6 or 8, something around this. And be careful because now we see this here, that there's no radius. And this is because the handle is not in this point. So when you do this, it generates the radius for you. And the next step is to create more layers, to put more layers on top and duplicate this, for example, give it another color. To make it very simple, move it around and put it like this, make sure that's in the center, and so on. So just repeat these steps here. And when you're done with that, you should have something like this. And there you have your different layers. And what I did here also in the background is to have a border. So something like a like a frame, or how you want to call it, is so it's just an outline. So what I did, how I created this, is just duplicate this shape and give it a stroke instead of a fill. And then you press Enter, and then you select these points and delete them. And then you make it just a little bit smaller. You can also turn it around and then find the right spot where you want to place it. So very, very easy. And this is how you create the basic shapes. It's very simple. And the next step would be then how we add images to it. So yeah, let's jump to the next step. You can find images everywhere in the internet, but be careful. Ask the photographer first if you are not sure if you're allowed to use these photos, because this can cause some problems. And the best way to avoid these problems is to use something like Unsplash, and yeah, to download the pictures from there, because they are free to use for every kind of stuff, and they have thousands of images. And here's 3 accounts I really like, so shout outs to these accounts. It's always good to say where you got these images from when you use them, even if they are free. It's cool to respect the owner or the photographer. So there's Uskus, Curioso, and NASA. I think I spelled them right. Yeah, more than 50% of them. But you can also go to the main page of NASA, for example, or ESA, and they have ridiculous high-resolution images of the moon, of any kind of planet surface. It's crazy. So you can also go to these websites. But back to the interface. So let us find a good image and try a few to get a feeling for them. I should also maybe add another layer on top, because I want to have a zoomed one. Yeah, because it feels too big in my taste to have too much going on here. So I make a big circle here in the middle, and yeah, do something like this. More like here. And this would be something like a zoomed lens. So you zoom into the surface, and we can use whatever you like here. So, but I already prepared something. But to use this, I always do this and create a style from one image and call it one. And then I select both layers and choose the style here. and add it to them. And then I detach the style to change the overall size of the image. But I already have one image that I want to use, and this is this one. But in my taste, it was too matte, so I used Photoshop to have more saturation, to make it more alien type-ish. And yeah, so you can also do this in Figma if you like. So you can tweak the little things here on the right side when you click on the image layer, and then you change the contrast and saturation, temperature, whatever you want to like. So but for me, I want to change also the sharpness and some other stuff. So yeah, I did it in Photoshop, but it shouldn't be a problem to just do it also in Figma. Or yeah, you can use Affinity. There are a lot of tools out there, sorry. So what we do then is selecting these things, and first we create a style out of this, 3 maybe, and then we add these to our layers, something like this. And what we're gonna do is then detach the style here and make a double click while holding Alt on your keyboard, or you can select this and say crop. So both ways are fine. So you jump directly in there, and then you zoom a bit in, because this lens has found something or is searching for something. And then you make it a little bit bigger, and this one, we do the same here. So something like this. And to bring more depth into this interface, I love to add shadows to the layers. So just let us assume the sun is shining from the top right, so the shadow goes to the bottom left. So what we do is then add an effect, drop shadow, and doing something like this, and moving it like this, and blur. So we make it extremely dark, something in that way. Perfect. So make it big, something like this. The thing here is that we don't have we have a black background. So what we do is duplicating this layer and blurring the whole layer. So we have some kind of a shine that is under this layer. So what we do then is, instead of drop shadow, we say layer blur, and then we push it to the limit, make it a bit smaller, and move it around. And then we press 3 or 4 and find the best amount of transparency that it does not look weird. So something like this should be fine. And what we also should do is making the layers a bit darker, because later when we put the interface, it's maybe white, we put on there, we want to see it. So we want to have a little bit of contrast. So we put a black layer on top and make it slightly something like this. And the other one, or maybe a little bit less, something like this. And the other one too. So adding another layer, solid one with black, something like this. And because the sun is coming from the top right side, we can also add a small shine here. So this white gradient, then we add this to the top right, something like this, and make it, we can make it to 30% transparency. And the other one here too. Make it like this. And then we add also a border. Border would be nice to have some kind of display feeling. So we add a stroke here and make it slightly bigger and give it transparency of 10, or yeah, something really dense. So because this is very important always when you create something like this, every detail is important because it generates the overall experience at the end. That sounds weird in some way, but so it depends on the details here. So this is all about images, by the way. So we can directly jump into details and filling this with a lot of stuff. So we can also, I will later add a shadow here, but for now, we don't need to. So this is all about images, and yeah, we see each other back in the details. Okay, this is the part where you can go crazy. We can do a lot with the arc tool, as you see here. We can create dashed and dot lines, bars arranged in a circle. We can also create patterns while using the arc tool as a mask, and these are just some use cases. So this is all the arc tool. So you can tweak the numbers and try to find new ways to arrange the arcs and to create new interface elements with that. So I think this is also a good point to talk about a little bit of why I do this and what I imagine all the time when I creating these stuff, because I want to give you some kind of inspiration and what you should think about while you're creating these. Or you don't need to, but it's kind of helpful. So think about you flying a spaceship through the universe and you try to explore new planets. That needs to be visualized somehow, but the system in the futures are so powerful and intelligent that you should not interact with the UIs in total. So it's more that the system shows you what it's doing right now and you can intervene if it's necessary. So these UIs should fly in the cockpit and can also be disassembled if you want to, so you can move them around. And all the rings and bars are calculation and measurements of received planet data. So numbers, bars, charts, sliders, loaders, all of them are needed to represent the system's brain. So just imagine it as a massively intelligent lens that you have here. And with that in mind, we can start designing the hell out of this thing, because I would want to definitely start now. And I would like to show you how I create this. So first I always focus on the center part, and then I walk slowly outside. A good inspiration, by the way, is also to take a look at jet head-up displays, so from jet pilots, and they are just beautiful, and this can help to find new elements that you can use in your design. And I give you now a small overview of what I do, because I want to speed up this part a bit, and that you get just a feeling of of how I start here. So what I do often is having an interface, so having an interface in the center and then go, not having an interface, but having some elements in the center and then going outside, as I said. So what I want to have is some kind of a focus point. So what I do is in the center, I create this tiny dot. So I want to create some kind of a crosshair, not to shoot someone, but to focus on something. And then we create this. And from there on, I just copy this, and this could create a whole layer mess. So yeah, it's kind of hard to avoid this mess of layers. But if you're not a chaotic person like me, you can definitely avoid this, I guess. So what we're doing here is now creating some kind of this crosshair of it's a bar, a horizontal bar of that it's aligned to something, and measure stuff, and then we create another circle here. It's kind of hard to explain, because the small story I told you before explains it very easily what I do here. So it's all about that you show that this system is running like hell and that it's calculating a lot of stuff there. So what you do then is using effects like a background blur, so you have this milky feeling and something like this. And then you can maybe also use the pen tool for doing something like this and making some brackets. So, but not normal brackets. We want to have brackets like this, more in that way and in that way. And then maybe we add some dots here, so you have some kind of a scale, like here. Duplicate them, make them smaller, because it's always very important to have these kind of tiny pieces, because even if they're very small, you notice them somehow, as you might see here. And this is what is very important for designs like these, the details. So you have this bracket, and move it a little bit more outside, like somewhere like here, and then play around with transparency, something like this, and maybe we put a bar here in front of this. And the cool part about this is there are no rules. There are really no rules. Just make it not completely unrealistic. So it's that, okay, this is stupid to say, but what I mean with this is don't make totally random stuff. So this is, for example, this is something like a focus point that I create here, or like a how you can say this. It's more it should feel that it's a frame of something. And this is how I create this, and then just add more and more circles here, something like this. Then move them around and make them maybe a little bit smaller. And what you can also do is make them really big, so you fill a lot of space first, and then you can break them down. So what I always do is also move this around and then give it a stroke, something like this. And then make it more transparent, this, and then copy this again, duplicating it, and move these layers around, and copy it again, make it bigger. So you have a lot of variations going on there. And then you can also copy and paste again this thing and move it to the outside. And when you move it completely to the outside, by the way, the arc tool, it generates the stroke for you. So now it directly turns into just a stroke like this. And then you can tweak on the 3 dots the dashed lines settings, for example, something like this. And this, make it to 0.4 and a bit smaller. Maybe not round, something more like this. So this is how you start then with these kind of things, and then make this bigger or make it like this, and then copy paste something like here, so you have some kind of moving parts here, these some kind of sliders, and from there on you move outside more and more and more and more. And because it takes so much time is because you create a lot of elements and then you try to move them around, and they should interact or play with each other, so it's a good balance of everything. And now I show you also, because after that I want to speed it up a bit, but I show you everything that's necessary here. So how you create, for example, a pattern, because I just draw it now here, and how you create, for example, a pattern in there is very easy. I make a folder out of this element here, so Command G, and then select this, and in this folder I just create these bars. So just create something like this and duplicate a lot of them, so something like this. Okay, and then Command E to bring them into one shape. Okay, I missed one anyway, that's not a big problem. Then bring this down and right click and say use mask, and then move this one into the folder and turn it a little bit around like this. And this is how you create patterns then. So these kind of cool futuristic shapes. Then you maybe reduce the amount of transparency a bit, and this is how you create these patterns. And then we can also create some circles here. So some charts, they look like this, and we make them a little bit more transparent like this. So this is how you can play around with the arc tool all the time, and this is how you create every element here. And it's just about how how creative you use this arc tool. You can also do something like this when I go down here and make this a little bit smaller. Now it's a dashed line. Yeah, I just make it empty. Now it's filled again. If you have some kind of radio frequencies or sound waves or whatever you want to call them, you can just make it round. Just turn the radius very high, and then you can make group out of it, and the inside duplicate this and fill this, because we use this as a mask now. Now it disappears, and in this mask we draw some kind of these waves. So just close them and make it like this, and then we can duplicate these waves. So we give this like 30% of transparency, then we flip them horizontally and we draw these waves. So this is how we can create different elements in there. So maybe we don't give it a border but a fill like this, and then start creating elements inside this element because this makes it interesting. Even if they don't make that much sense, it gives some kind of feeling that it makes sense, and you don't understand it because you don't understand the system, and that makes it interesting somehow. And yeah, this is how you create the specific elements on the interface. And I hope it helps you when I now speed it up a bit and that I finalize the elements here. And after that, we talk about typography a little bit more. All right, and here we are back again. My computer said no and stopped the recording, so I finished the design, and yeah, here we are. I already played with some typography. For example, on the left side, I want to have some kind of a recording. On the bottom, I want to have a pager. On the top right, I want to put the name of the planet. So there are many spots we can fill up with typography, and this is what we discussed then in the next chapter. Great, you reached the last chapter of this tutorial. So here everything is about fonts and research, typography, and fill our design with content. So 3 of these fonts are for free. If you have a good connection to an agency or a friend in an agency, or you're working at an agency, maybe the rest is also for free. And there's also this opportunity to buy a pack from Pangram Pangram, and that gives you all their typefaces for a few dollars, but just for personal use. But this is kind of cool. So for this design today, we just use Inter. So I just want to show you what are cool typefaces that we can use. But today we use Inter. It's a free font. It is beautiful, very clean, has many features, and a lot of different faces. With features, I mean, here when you click on the 3 dots on the right panel, you can set up so many different things, and you can also use some combinations of a line and this arrow here, and when you combine them, you get an arrow like this. Or you can make a double arrow like this. So it's a very nice typeface. So the other section is about research. So we are talking about metrics and names and inspiration, but I would like to skip this in some way to make it a little bit quicker, because it can be very boring. So metrics are, I mean, you need to find any data that you want to use. So the mass of the planet, the diameter, the density, gravity, length of the day, all the stuff you can find in the internet. And then we paste links in the info box. And I always recommend to watch movies when you want to get inspired for futuristic interfaces, because there's also there are a lot of agencies like Territory Studio. They create beautiful interfaces, and this is insane what they do. And you can always look at these movies, also Marvel movies, or just at the NASA website or ESA website to get some inspiration of what you can use, which words you can use, which data is maybe important to analyze a planet. So there are then lists like this, and you can go through it, use the numbers there. But anyway, I just want to mention this, and so let us jump in to our design and then add some text. So what we're gonna do first is give it a name, and I have all the time Atlas in my mind. So we create something like here, because I decided this is the spot where my name goes. So we make a box that is some kind of 100, we made 110, something like this. We make it also black, and not red, black. And then we make a few little bit roundish corners, make it slightly bigger, a little bit longer, and then we type our name inside using Inter, the font. So, and we use this, and we make maybe the kerning a little bit less, the font a little bit bigger, something like this, to give some context here. And then we give it the number 1 because it's the first tutorial, and that's why we choose this number. And it's maybe also the first planet we found here together, and make it a little bit bigger and make it interesting to add some details here in the corner. For example, some kind of bracket. It's kind of tricky for me to design while I'm talking, and I try to find out the best way to doing this because I don't want to be a narrator of designing first and then talking over my design. I don't know what is the best way to do it. Maybe someone has a tip for me, or like a small hint. That would be very nice. So this is our beautiful name, and then we can talk about, okay, this is a class 8 planet or whatever, because in the future they describe everything. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they organize everything. So this is a class 8 planet here, and then we make a little bit of spacing here, maybe a little bit smaller. And what is cool, if we maybe create some kind of a QR code or a barcode, and this is very simple. If we do just random lines like this and make it bigger, so move them around. Just imagine that you can scan this at the end and make just different lines. So maybe we create a group. So like this and that, this bigger. And then we color them all white. And then we select just random things and press 4 and give them all different transparency. So it feels, again, something like, okay, this is important. Make it maybe a bit smaller. And then like this. Voila, this is our class 8 planet. Maybe we make the font on regular or medium and a little bit more transparent. Something like this, yes. This is not okay. So perfect. And this looks still a little bit naked, and what we do then is copying this shape and we cutting out an edge from here, just like this. This feels better. And then we add a small dot at this corner, just to keep it interesting, just to make it very interesting. This could be an anchor point for when you want to pin something somewhere, and this could be everything. Just be creative, and you don't need to have all the time a complete reason why this exists, but it should feel like it has a reason why it's there. So yeah, maybe it's still better to think about why, what it does there. And now I want to put a corner here, so like a little edge, because I want to connect this card to the center point here. But first of all, I want to give it maybe also an ID. somewhere like here. So we say ID DE14CH. I really like to hide some stuff in there. I really like the number 14, DE for Germany, so Deutschland, and CH for Karl Hauser. And this may be the idea of the planet. You can choose whatever you like, but you have a lot of opportunities to hide stuff in there. And this is really nice, in my opinion, to always hide some Easter eggs there. And then I made a little card here, maybe something like this. And yeah, maybe a little bit more down. And this card here gets also the image, or nah. We add this image. So let me create a style out of this again. Like this, like this. All right. Okay, and then paste this style in here. So we have the tiny map also. Just again to keep it very interesting. So you can find every like tiny details everywhere. And this is what I really like about these designs, because you want to keep them interesting while you're adding this typography, and then you start adding stuff that you, because in my overall designs you will always find the number 42, for example, because this is the answer for everything. And yeah, you can just Google it. I don't explain it right here, but it has something to do with the Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy. And this is one of my favorite stories, and that's why also the name of the channel is Don't Panic. So we made now a connection here to the bottom, like this, and then looks like this. Oh, it starts to get cool. So then we have a small label here at the bottom that it's connected to, and we give this also a random number, because this could be then the, oh no, I moved something. This could be then the anchor point number 35.1, because the system analyzed, okay, this is the section 35.1 where they found something. So, oh, and then we made it like this. Maybe round this and adding also a small corner. Even if you, this is also, even if you might not notice this small corner at the end. So when you make a small corner in this design here, you will, someone will find it, someone will see it, and someone will see all the tiny details you create there. And this is what creates the characteristic of this design. So I really like to add more and more details there. And this is what we call then maybe core, because now the system saw the center. I feel a little bit weird when I talk about the design like this. But anyway, I just want to give you the feeling of what I think about when I design this stuff, because it's sometimes to get really lost in the design and just to create something beautiful, and don't think about, okay, what are the user research behind it? What are the UX principles and blah 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 blah? Because this is something I have to do with this stuff. I have to do a lot in my job, so I don't want to be all the time affected by this when I do this, because sometimes it's not that much fun. I really love my job, but I just want to get my head free on the weekends or at night, and that's why I do these experiments, and I really love to do this. So like this. So we have this tiny dot there, and we copy this and move it also here. Beautiful. Yeah, we don't get it centered. Okay. Move it up like this. Okay, perfect. And because the we want to round also these edges here. We just flatten the image again, or this layer, and then we select these anchor points and then curve it a little bit. Just something like this should work. Perfect. And then here maybe 2, maybe just a 3, should be fine. And yeah, we want to do this here too. Even if it's very small, just think about the details. And yes, perfect. And we saw also a font up here called Block Neue, also for free, and it creates these blocks. So you have a lot of fill text that you can use. But this is what we do later. Before that, we think about substances that get found on this planet. And you have always hydrogen and helium there, so let us use this. So we create 2 labels, also with a border radius slightly like this, and we make just 1 pixel, yeah, yes, like this tiny gap. And then we say hydrogen found, hydrogen, okay, too big, I don't know what I've written down there. So 20, okay, cool. Hydrogen, perfect. And then make it, yeah, small like this, maybe with more gaps. Align it to the left side, maybe a little bit smaller. Yeah, and then how much percentage does this planet have? So maybe 65. Awesome. Yeah, something like this. Make it bigger here. And then we make it also transparent and with a blurred background. Ooh, okay. This is cool. And make this a little bit more transparent. Make a group out of it and duplicate this. And here we write down 35% helium. And these are information you get really from websites like NASA and any other information site about planets. So this is not that unrealistic. So then we have also these charts here at the top. So we add some numbers like this, because these are very important charts, by the way. This is chart 28, for example. And then we have, make the gap a little bit smaller. This is chart 28. Then we have chart, here we have 42. Then this is chart 75, and they are calculating stuff, and this is where we use the font block. So I just type random stuff in there, and then I search for look block, and then you see this. You can also draw blocks, but I really like the font here, so I really like to use this because it's very handy. And then put it next to this. And then we have some random text because it's so small you can't read it anymore, so you need to zoom in. But this looks kind of cool when you look from here. And then we make some variants like this and like this. Maybe. Perfect. Okay, maybe a little bit more transparent. And this should also have 4 lines. All right, I always think about, okay, I need to talk, but I don't want to talk that much. So I just want to add stuff to it here. So you understand what are my thoughts here. So this is maybe just a number for a section on the interface. So section 2.9. So whenever the astronaut or whoever's using this interface searching for something, and the interface said, oh, section 2.9 is has a more function, whatever, they can easily find it. I think it's it's logic. So what we do then, we can also add, oh no, what I created here. We can also, because right now we don't need the arc tool, because we want to also align text to an axis, also to the circle. And this is what we want to do in Illustrator. But if you don't have Illustrator, after I created something like this, because this is now the recording function here, I will explain you or show you the arc tool here in the other arc tool, arc plugin here in Figma. So what we do here is just the recording number of this recording, and then these are the seconds. Make them a little bit smaller. I press K, by the way, to make them smaller. I don't want to jump all the time in these numbers, even if they are not that they're good and they're 7.84, but I like to use this arrow because it's a proportional scale, and the other one is just the normal scale, and then you just scale the bounding box like this. So when you press V, you have this normal arrow. When you press K, you have this arrow for proportional scale. Just a small side note. And then we select this and we make this a little bit more transparent. And we, next to this point, we write something like recording. Whoa, okay, smaller. And maybe a bigger gap, like this. Okay. Great. So this is our recording. Looks like this, maybe a bit bigger. Great. So what we want to do now is aligning the font to a circle here. So which data we can use is, for example, time to spin on axis, and then we write something days. We make this all big like this, and then we press the right click, and so then we choose this plugin arc. Sorry, there are a lot of plugins here because I always play around, but we choose arc, and this looks like this, and there we can align it on an arc. When you go too far, it's like this, and we want to have something like this, and it bends for you the letters, but it does not bend the text layer, so you can't change the text after that, because there's no function in Figma like that. So you will have a layer like this, so you just get vectors. So, or no, wait, oh yeah, okay, you get each letter by itself, so you can change. Sorry, one misinformation, but you get each layer by yourself, and then you can change this. But yeah, it writes then in this angle, so yeah, not very useful then. But if you are sure what you want to do, then it's very useful. So we want to put this text, so this text here somewhere, there, and make it a little bit smaller. That should align to this. So what we're gonna do is using the arc tool, where we are again, so run last plugin, and then we made a bend like more like this. This is, by the way, a tiny problem because it lands always on top of your text layer, and I don't know why it does not take the overall capital letters there. So what we're gonna do then is putting it somewhere here, and then turning it white. This is one opportunity, or one possible technique that you can use to align text to your design. And the other option is using Illustrator. And this is what I want to show you right now. So now we are in Illustrator, we use the type on pass tool. And this is very easy because you just draw a circle and then you select the type tool on the left side, hold and press the left mouse button to reach the type on pass tool, like here, and then click on this circle. And then it aligns the text to your pass. So to have a reference, we can copy and paste the shapes from Figma easily to Illustrator because everything is vector based here. But what we need to do first is delete all fills and layers because Illustrator can't interpret the image on your layer. So just fill it with a gray shape, it doesn't matter. And then right click, copy as SVG, delete it here because we don't need it anymore. And then paste it here. So now we have it in Illustrator and we send this to back. And there we have our text. And our text was something like time to spin on axis. I don't know why, but my Illustrator does not find the inter font. So I use Ionic. When it's this small, it does not matter much. And it's also just to give you an example. Maybe it works on your side. I don't know what I set up here, but I just want to mention this. So time to spin on axis. Maybe we put some days here. So days. So just some kind of random number, not 900, maybe 400 days. And then we can align this to our design. So we can spin it around. What I really hate is these handles here because they never, so this works, but sometimes it doesn't work. And then you have this and it's I don't get it. So I just turn instead the whole frame around and bring it to the right position. And yeah, if we like what we see here, then we just press the right mouse button and then we say create outlines. And then we copy and paste this text easily to Figma because it's all vector based. And then we bring it to this area here and then we turn it white. And voila, we have aligned our text to the circle. And this is how you do it with everything that you want to align to the circle here. If you have Illustrator, if you don't have Illustrator, it's fine. Use the Arc tool or the other plugins in the Figma community hub, because there's some. I guess I have in mind. There's one where you can align text to a path or objects to a path. So I will paste the links down in the video box. And I don't want to explain now all the stuff I paste in here because I already done this. And this is how the final result will look like. So I paste some more fill text in, some other numbers, and did the kerning a little bit different here on the left side. And I already did something like changing the image. As I said at the beginning, if you change the image, the whole character of this interface changed. So I tried it with that one, and this looks a little bit darker. I don't know which one I prefer, like both. And yes, now I will maybe... I can finish the tutorial now. You can just close it. But what I want to show you, because on Twitter, many people ask me oh, how have you done the tilt shift in Figma? I just want to mention I have done this tilt shift of the Goliath design in Photoshop. Sure, in Photoshop, there's no tilt shift function here, but I created a tilt shift in Figma, and this is very easy. Because I just want to find out, okay, can I create it here? And it makes totally sense that you can, because you just have a gradient here where you have on the left side some kind of grayish, because I used the background color here, some kind of grayish bluish tone that is 20% transparent. And then you have 0% of transparency. And this is then the gap where nothing is happening. And then again, at the end, you have, again, some kind of transparency, so it gets blurred. And the effect is then that you choose layer blur, so the overall layer gets blurred, so the corners are not that, there's not a hard cut at the end. And you choose background blur, so the background gets blurred. What you don't have is motion blur, so it looks a little bit more dynamic, so I prefer to do it in Photoshop. But yeah, you can do it also here in Figma, why not? So this was everything I can tell you today. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment in English and German. That's totally fine. Just write me on Instagram, on Twitter. And yeah, if you have any feedback, just let me also know, and what I can change, what I can tweak here and there. maybe it's too long, or I don't know, but yeah, have fun with that, and I hope to see some interfaces you create. Yeah, see you then.